as a program, I think, I talked about it when I got here. I want a team that can compete for championships on a consistent basis. And to do that, to compete for championships, you're going to have to beat Alabama. As everybody said last year, what's the margin? Last year it was 6 points, this year it was 2, and hopefully we get one more shot at it.
They've got like 100 5-star football players on their defense. They have a defensive lineman that weighs 340 pounds and runs better than everybody on this call. 5-star recruits everywhere, and they play really physical. Damn.
I think Memphis played more mature than we did. I think that, which I don't even know exactly what that means, but they're more advanced than we were. And then sometimes morale doesn't need to be boosted. Now, you need to boost something, but it's not always morale that needs to be boosted. And between now and tomorrow, I'm going to figure out what it is that needs to be boosted. And whether I'm right or not, we're going to boost something.
Well, like I told them, we're not satisfied by any stretch, but you can't ever apologize for a win.
We don't have to have the best players. We just have to have the best team. Our kids have bought into that.
Listen, potential is the worst thing you can have. Because that means you ain't done it. I hate the word potential. Somebody says you got potential to have a good team. That drives me nuts. That means I'm not coaching right and they're not playing right.
Welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, just winding down here. My Sunday rewatch of all these SEC games. What a Saturday here in the SEC we had. You know what, brother?
Golly, Mike. Well, we almost had one if it weren't for them damn officials, Mike. Oh, man. I think, man, this was great college football all the way from start to finish. And I hate that it's going to have an asterisk by it, man, because there was a couple of games I think the refs got a little too involved.
Yeah, so we'll get into...
Or some games they didn't get involved, so we'll get to all those.
Yeah, we got a loaded show, lot to talk about. So let's start with the big one there, Shane. The game lived up to the hype. The first CBS SEC game of the season. Alabama goes on the road, defeats the Florida Gators 31-29. A lot of people... Hell, we had... we're talking up the Florida Gators all week. But even I'll admit, Shane, when it was 21-3 early in the game, I was like, my God, here we go again. Alabama's just going to steamroll the country. But that's not exactly how it played out. And, I don't want to say luck was involved, but, there was a lot of miscues by the Florida Gators that, cracked that door wide open for Bryce Young and Alabama. And credit to them, they took advantage of every opportunity. But there was many chances for Florida to give in on this one. They never did, kept fighting, and damn near won this game. And, I hate to say it, Shane, without a miscue here, there was the Brenton Cox dropped interception. That was huge. The 2-point conversion, that was just it was just not executed well. The missed PAT. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, you got to be haunted.
Pass
here.
Interference.
Yeah, I mean, several of them.
So, I'm with you, Mike. This was a great game, and I'd like to. As a Tennessee Volunteer fan, it is hard to do this, but I'd like to apologize to the Gator Nation because I didn't think they had a shot against this Crimson Tide team. I was under the impression, and of course, I did it. I do it every year, Mike. I get pumped up about the first couple of games, and I think I got these teams figured out. I thought I did, and I was wrong. And it is kind of nice, Mike. It is kind of nice to see that top gap a little bit thinner, because, like you said, for the longest time, it feels like Crimson Tide's, conference, and it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like Florida blew this one. Florida had an opportunity to win, and I don't want those fans to get down and out because they still control their destiny. They still have an opportunity to play these guys again, man.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Shane. I mean, outside of the SEC, we're seeing all these upsets. We're seeing all these near upsets. And now I think the big takeaway for me is Alabama looks mortal because, again, all these miscues, and still Florida managed late in the game to potentially tie it, potentially win the game. Alabama's defense just got run all over. I know Florida's number one in the country in rushing, but if you would have told me going into this game that Emory Jones was going to throw an interception and Anthony Richardson wasn't going to play and they were going to jump out 21-3 lead, I was going to say, my God, Alabama's going to win by 50. But there's not that separation. And I like the fact that you hit on it because that was Dan Mullen's main message here after the game. We're closing the gap, and we want to see these guys again. And I think after Saturday, we're still obviously very high on Georgia, but I'm much more confident that Florida can find its way to Atlanta after seeing this team play on Saturday. Don't you think?
Oh, definitely, man. I just thought it was like, you remember at Rocky and Drago, and you just thought Drago was just going to just kick Rocky's ass. And then all of a sudden, he got that punch in and you're like, oh, wait, he is human. Wait, Rocky's got a shot here, The ending didn't end like we wanted it to, or maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe you're a Crimson Tide fan.
Like I said, I think that's the main takeaway. I think Alabama is – now, hell, they're still number one. They're going to be favored in every damn game, so we're not trying to overreact here. But, you jump out to that huge lead, and I don't want to say you blow it because I think what happened was Florida's defense made adjustments. And Alabama's offense, went consecutive three consecutive 3-and-outs, if I'm not mistaken. And there was even an opportunity, Florida, right before half. That was another one where they had gained some momentum. They were moving the ball. Then they had a penalty and a negative play. And I even tweeted out, I was like, well, there goes Florida's shot. It felt like that was their opportunity to get back in this ball game. Right. And yet they continued to fight, still found a way. So, if nothing else, if I'm a Florida Gator fan, I've seen plenty of Georgia fans mock them for this, but a moral victory, if you want to call it that. But you go toe to toe with the nation's best team. I think that tells you that you've got one hell of a football team, don't you think?
Dan, you played these guys as close as anybody's played them the last two times with two really, I guess, disparate sort of offensive approaches, at least. Why is that? Why are you so much trouble for these guys?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think one thing a lot of teams play Alabama, and I think they sometimes don't think they're going to win the game. Maybe. I mean, our guys certainly they certainly expected to win the game. Played that way. We did last year. We did this year. I think that's maybe a big part of it. I think our guys here, you come to Florida, our guys are excited. Where we're headed as a program, I think, I talked about it when I got here. I want a team that can compete for championships on a consistent basis. And to do that, to compete for championships, you're going to have to beat Alabama. And as everybody said last year, what's the margin? Last year it was 6 points, this year it's 2, and hopefully we get one more shot at them and get an opportunity to compete for another championship as we move forward. But, that's what we want to be as a program, and that's what our guys, how we prepare and we expect heading out there on the field.
Dan, I wanted to ask you a follow-up to what Dennis was asking you about earlier. Do you feel like you're closer to having a team that can consistently play for and win championships at this point?
We're getting there. We had the opportunity last year to play for the SEC championship, fell 6 points short. The team, number one team in the country, are 2 points short today. So I think we're getting there. I think we're at a point where we can compete. We got to get there to the point right now where we're going to go win. And I think that's the hunger in the locker room. I mean, you see our guys in the locker room, they want to win they want to win that game. It wasn't like, hey, we played a great game. I think there's legitimate some disappointment that we didn't win the game because we expected to. But we got to keep building, got to keep recruiting, keep coaching, keep developing here. I think certainly everybody's on board making that happen. right now. We have unbelievable support from our administration. We're going to, within the next, 9 months, we're opening up an unbelievable football facility for the future for our guys, not just for recruiting purposes, but for the training and everyday purpose for our players. You go out there in the swamp, there's no atmosphere like game day in the swamp when it's rocking. Our fan base, our student body, the Gator Nation bought into what we're doing and creating that environment. So, we got to get it back where the Gators are competing in our recruiting. We got to continue to recruit well, to get it back where we're competing for championships every year.
Hey, Mike, I swear we've spent 5 minutes pumping up Florida. Let's not forget who won this damn game, Mike. Let me ask you a question, because I just think we didn't expect it to be this close. We didn't expect this thing to come down the wire, which it did. But I think both teams grew up quite a bit here in this game. Kudos to the Crimson, going to the swamp, man. Packed stadium. Yeah, Bryce grew up real quick back behind center there. So let me ask you, coming from this game, who do you think I don't know, gains the most from this ball game? Because like you said, or like I was telling you earlier, both these teams still control their destiny. They still have an opportunity to make the playoffs, to make the SEC championship. But I'm just saying, moving forward, which team benefited most this Saturday?
Maybe Alabama, Shane, because, given the fact that their youth on the offensive side of the ball, I know it's incredibly talented youth, but a lot of players in their first time, these primetime slots, and I'm specifically thinking of Bryce Young and some of these receivers and some linemen, but now they know what it's like to go on the road and come away with the W, because there's a trip to College Station looming not that far away. There's a red-hot Ole Miss team coming into town here in a little bit. And, I think you've got to build that confidence, and you got to be tested. And by God, they were certainly pushed to the limit here and almost got beaten here by the Florida Gators. And we'll see. I think that'll be the big challenge, is to see how Florida responds after such a full week of just the hype and anticipation for this game, and it lived up to it, certainly, I thought.
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, all SEC teams were watching this game, man. I think they come away thinking, hey, man, we're getting closer. It's not the haves and the have-nots anymore. That's what I love about the SEC football, man. We don't like dominant teams. We like ball games, and it felt like that's exactly what we got there in the swamp.
Let me ask you this real quick, Shane. If you're going by stock, like my power rankings there, are you rising Florida more or dropping Alabama more after Saturday's game?
Great question, Mike. And I hate to take the easy road, but I think it's a combination of both. I think everybody, myself included, Vegas included, had Alabama as a shoe-in repeat, and now I'm not so sure. I'm not. Again, they won. They're undefeated. They haven't lost a game. There was some aspects of their game that looks fantastic, but like you said, there was some flaws that I had no idea that this team could be ran on like Florida Gators did. And they just established a blueprint on how to make a game with Alabama competitive. Now, that's easier said than done. I don't expect the Volunteers to come in there and say, hey, as long as we run the ball, we can beat these guys. They're still heavily talented, but there's a lot of other talented rosters in this conference, and I think that's kind of what I got from it. Now, that being said, Nick Saban is the greatest coach of all time for a reason. And maybe the halftime adjustments weren't exactly what they had planned, but don't be surprised moving forward if this ball game or this program doesn't get better.
Nick, what concerns you most about today?
What concerned me most was that we could not sustain our intensity, especially on defense. We had a lot of mental errors, and they did a good job. They did a really good job, had a good plan. And when you're playing the option and everybody's got to be disciplined. Somebody's got the quarterback, somebody's got the pitch. And because we weren't doing that correctly, I think we were afraid to do a lot of other things that we had planned in the game. But we didn't get off the field on third down either. We had several opportunities, especially in the fourth quarter, to get off the field on third down where we created long yardage situations. When they went 99 yards for a touchdown, we got them backed up on the 1 yard line. We got them third down. We got to get off the field. Another situation where it was 3rd and 18, they complete a pass for 16 yards and go for it on 4th down and convert. So got to get off the field on third down. So all in all, it was just our execution on defense and the fact that we didn't get off the field on third down.
I just want to ask about Bryce and the way he handled his composure through that second half.
Yeah, I think Bryce did a really good job. I think it was very composed. It was a difficult circumstance and situation to play in. We clapped some, we went on silent some, but I thought he managed the game really well, made some really, really good decisions for the most part. We did a nice job on third down, which was really important in the game. Made some good reads. Guys made some good catches. So, I thought offensively, other than those 3 and outs in the second quarter, we did a good job of moving the football. We didn't always score a touchdown, but I think when you play and you control the tempo of the game on offense, and even when you move the ball and control the clock, keep the defense off the field, those are important things when you're playing good teams.
All right, Shane, we got to move it along here. So the other big night game here, Penn State wins at home. My God, hey, did you know it was a whiteout? I only heard that about 50,000 times by the ABC crew, but 28-20. And, I hate to put the whole game on the last basically call there for Auburn, because who knows if they would have even scored the 2-point conversion. But, really questionable fade call pass on 4th and short there. And my God, the receiver tripped. It never even had a hope and a prayer. But considering Auburn's success on the ground, considering they got a man by the name of Tank Bigsby, you got a guy named Tank, you got to give him the ball with the game on the line in some form or fashion. And they didn't get it done there. There was the big first, I think it was the very first play of the second half. Auburn tried to do a trick play and it blew up. It was a receiver pass. He fumbled, and Penn State scored a touchdown right after that, after getting the turnover, and it kind of felt like that was the defining moment of the game. But again, moral victories, that they don't count much for in football. We all know that. But again, I think Auburn is going to gain some respect from this, and now we find out how they respond after being tested and falling short on the road against Penn State. What was your main takeaway on this one?
I think this game single-handedly changed the word targeting. I think they use this one. I think they use this video, and we get a rule change next year, Mike. That's how impactful I think some of the calls were in this game. And you're right, man. Everybody wanted – it felt like you're listening. And I'm not trying to get on the commentaries or anything like that, but it just felt like they wanted Penn State to win. They want Penn State to be good. And I'm telling you right now, Mike, they are not good. Auburn went up there and about beat them, and they should have. I don't know what that fade thing was, and honestly, it shouldn't have came down to that. This team was being physical on both sides of the ball, and they got away from that, and they put it in Bo Nix's hands, and Bo Nix is still Bo Nix, man. And I give credit. I want to give credit to this guy's Bobby Big Wheel. He put out a tweet earlier today. It says coaches who are about to call a goal line fade, and this girl says, "Well, did it work for those people?" And the guy says, "No, it never does. These people somehow delude themselves in thinking it might, but it might work for us." I'm here to tell you right now, Mike, that damn play does not work. And even Kurt told you, you're put it up against their best defender. Mm-hmm. I don't understand that. You take advantage of Bo Nix's – if you're not going to give it to two of the running backs that are averaging 5 yards a carry, then put it in Bo's – what is he good at? He's good at scrambling and making something happen. Don't put him back there in the pocket and try to get him to thread a dime, because it ain't going to happen.
Right.
Not at Penn State. Come on, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to I think it was A&M, where he's flipping guys off him, and he went Terminator, and I think he made the entire defense miss on his way to the end zone. So, yeah, that is clearly Bo Nix's strength. But one of the weaknesses, surprising weakness, I thought, so much hype under Derek Mason and his defense. They allowed Penn State 85% completion and a lot of busts. I mean, that is just some of the busts were just baffling here. And I was listening to Nathan King, who's been on the show, Auburn Undercover, his podcast. He went back and looked at the stats, and he said the stats he had only go back to 1995, and this was the highest completion percentage Auburn has ever allowed going back to 1995. So that's got to be a huge issue, because this Penn State quarterback, I'm not trying to sell him completely short, but it's not like he was anything special. I mean, like I'm saying, these guys were wide ass open on a lot of these plays. So I've never even
just
seen
guard the tight end, Mike. Just guard the tight end. You'll be all right.
I mean, they had.
Did you know they have 3 of them? 3 athletes up there at the time. Shut up, Kurt.
And apparently they have Joey Porter Jr. I had to hear that 20,000. I was thinking, what about Bo Nix's dad, Tank's dad? I mean, why we got to single out Joey Porter Jr.? But
exactly.
Yeah, that was on and on and on. You know what?
Yeah, it's just like I said, they wanted them to win that game, and the fact that they. Don't get me wrong. Auburn is they're on the up and coming, okay, but they ain't there yet, man. And to sit over there and just, I cannot stand James Franklin, man. Him at the end of that damn game, I was like, God, I'd love to send the Gators up there. I'd love to send Alabama, because right now they think they're on the top of the world, man. They got a new coach, a new program. And I guarantee you right now, Brian he's had nightmares wanting to redo that last play. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things he'd like to change. And I think if they could have that opportunity and they met again, they're beating Penn State. And I know that's the easy cop, but I'm telling you, this program is better than the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, and my final thing on this, Shane, that the play where the receiver, it was a pass and he fumbled, and you may say, why in the hell are you running that with, an inexperienced guy? But, they said they saw something. We'll get to Harson's comments here in a second. But I actually love the fact that, they're willing to gamble, because that's what you got to do on the road. A relatively young / inexperienced Auburn team with a new coaching staff. And I think that's the coaching staff swinging big. And I want my coach, particularly a first-year guy, to show confidence in his team, to try to make these huge plays rather than playing conservative. Because when you get into the SEC, when you're facing Georgia, when you're facing Alabama, good luck, brother, if you're going to play it conservative. You have got to swing big. And, it obviously didn't work. It blew up on them. But I credit the fact that they went up there, just like he said, they went to win. They didn't go to just have a good showing. You know what?
That's right. They didn't leave out. They had no intentions of making this a ball game. They had intentions of winning. And like I said, they're watching that film just like you and I have, just like everybody has, and they're picking out the mistakes that they made along the way. And it caught them, and you just couldn't afford to do that this early in the season.
Yes, Brian. Back to that fourth down play there late in the fourth. Was the play to go to Kobe Hudson, or was it a play where you get lined up and Bose just sort of picks the best opportunity that he sees? And how do you feel like it came out there?
Well, it's a little more calculated than that, but there are 4 options on it. There's really 5, and Kobe was one of them. I just saw the kind of the first of the play, the ball went up, and he was out of phase with where the throw was. But to answer your question, yes, there's 5 possibilities on that play right there. So we give ourselves the best chance to get somebody in the end zone. I don't know. I'd go back and before I make any comment on, was that the right decision? You got to go back and watch and see, where the progression starts. And that's really the one thing at the quarterback position. Sometimes those plays don't work out, and the main question is, well, he made the wrong read. Not necessarily. Sometimes either it's a route, it's the defense doing a good job in their coverage. And so we'll assess that tonight as we watch the film on the plane. We'll look at it and make corrections tomorrow. But ultimately, you want to give yourself a better chance in that situation right there. I don't know if that was a decision, but we've run that thing quite a few times. We made some really good plays on it. So, I trust that what he saw out there, we'll look at it and we'll learn from it and we'll go from there.
Hey, Brian, can you sort of take us through what the sort of the play call process is on that timeout with the 4th down at the goal line? Is it you and Bobo who has the play ready? And just sort of take us through the decision on that, please.
Yeah, we talk about it. Everybody kind of gives their input, and then we have those plays are pre-planned and scripted in those areas. So those are things that you work on, and I got to go back and look at it on exactly what happened. Obviously, we didn't execute it or get the play out result that we wanted. So, but those are things that you go into a game plan, and believe it or not, that you actually spend time on it, working through it, and going through the different scenarios and get to that moment. That's the play selection that you have and what you choose. So we went to that menu of plays, and it didn't hit like we wanted it to.
Brian, what do you feel like you learned about your team tonight?
I think there's a lot. I didn't see anybody that was on the field. Nobody quit. All right, everybody was locked in on the sideline. As far as we brought them over there, we had to make decisions and adjustments and those things. And then there's plenty of work to do. I mean, that's one thing. And this loss, I mean, it should burn. We came here and we played a really good Penn State team on the road, and we give ourselves an opportunity to go win the game. Those are games that you want to win. Those are games that we came here to win. We didn't come here just to play and be in the game. We came here to win the game. And, that's going to be the mindset with everybody around in this program, not just showing up and playing well, but finding a way to win. And, the road is a big part of that. You want to be a championship team, you got to win on the road. Half your games are on the road. Ultimately, from this point on, what do we do tomorrow? What's the attitude? What's the focus? What's the effort that we're going to get from this team? I mean, I think there's a lot of guys in that locker room that are disappointed, and we all should be. And I think it's something that you want to absorb and take in, and then you do everything in your power to figure out a way to not let that happen again.
All right, Shane, here's probably going to be my favorite part of the show. Let's piss you off real quick. Let's go to Memphis beating Mississippi State 31-29. And, hey, I got lucky. I said if this thing gets into the 30s, I feel like Memphis is going to steal it. That 31 points exactly was the – all it took for the Tigers to win, and some help from the officials, no doubt. But, I know that's going to be the big talking point, and it should be, because Mississippi State got screwed on multiple occasions. I'm sure we'll get to the punt, all that. But I thought even the most egregious was I have never in my life have I seen an instant replay of, an onside kick or any play, and then they go to the review booth, and then they come out and say, well, hell, we found a penalty on something else. I mean, I don't know if that's in the rule book. I don't believe it is, but man, what a calamity of errors. And the SEC even had to issue a statement here. We'll throw it up on the YouTube channel, but man, multiple missed calls on the big punt that really, changed the outcome of the game.
Absolutely, Mike. And I made the mistake of doing a double lockdown, but I'm telling you, Mike, this is a game. This is a game that shouldn't come down to those stupid penalties. Mississippi State blew this thing. Mm-hmm. Forget the downed punt. And if you didn't watch it or you didn't see any highlights, quick recap. Mississippi State punts the ball. Memphis is back there to receive. Now, Memphis has a receiver wearing the number 4. Mm-hmm. There's also another player on the field wearing the number 4, which is illegal, which is a penalty, a 5-yard penalty, and it results in I don't know.
It would have been a re-kick.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, would have been a re-kick. Okay, so needless to say, the guy goes back there, puts his knee on the ground, his hand on the football, and downs the ball. a ref comes in and whistles the ball dead.
Well, there was no whistle.
Okay. In the process, his hands are up to make the dead ball symbol. Needless to say, number 4 comes in there, grabs the football, takes off, wins a putt, gets a putt, return for a touch. It broke their back, man. It couldn't be at a worse time, and they ended up winning this game. And they didn't review it. And then when you're watching the review, there's like 16 people on the field. There's players coming out from Memphis. You know what I'm saying? The mascot's out there smoking a cigarette, and everybody's just like, hey, everything's okay, you know? It's like, what are we doing? This is a huge play. This changes the game, and we're not going to take a moment to see if it was legit, because later in the game, they took a moment to see how they blocked an onside kick. So I don't know. This one right here, it stuck in my craw because part of me knows that Mississippi State is a better team, and not by close, Mike. We text through this whole thing. I was very impressed at moments of how just dominant they were, but they just kept letting Memphis get back in it. They're making stupid decisions when they get inside the 20-yard line. You cannot make mistakes like that, and it came back and bit them.
Yeah, and then we haven't even mentioned the first score of the game. Mississippi State fumbled a ball. Memphis returned it for a touchdown, a scoop and score touchdown. So, I mean, there was these huge defining plays in the game, and a lot of it unforced. I mean, I agree with everything you said about the punt return, and it was a bullshit call that should not have been. But there's also other Mississippi State players just standing there. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily totally on them, but you know these are just Mississippi State's a young team, and they need to be more consistent, and they need to play to the whistle. And it's not just the special teams; it's the offense, man. It seems like until they get in a big hole, they don't kick their ass into gear, and you know the stats look good because they're throwing it all over the yard, but we're just lacking consistency here, and it almost cost them against Louisiana Tech, and now it finally bit them in the ass here, and it's just a momentum killer heading into SEC play next week against LSU.
And why? Why is it when Mississippi State gets their back against the wall, the air raid kicks in? And you're like, that's the offense I was promised. This is the quarterback. This is the receivers that I was promised when the Pirate came in here. It's like they wait to the very – I don't understand the conservative play calling at times. It feels like they're almost afraid to cut loose. When they do cut loose, man, they're effective, they're efficient, and they look good. Does the quarterback make a mistake every now and then? Absolutely. But at least he's taking chances, and this defense can keep them in any game. And they tried. They tried like hell to keep them in this one, but they kept messing up. The offense kept screwing up. That's all it was. It came down to efficiency, and Mississippi State just could not capitalize when they needed to.
What was the explanation you had on the punt return?
On what?
On the punt return, they called illegal touching, and they ran back for the touchdown.
Well, I mean, the ball's live. Just because you touch it, usually they whistle it, you know.
But
we got to pick it up and hand it to the ref.
The ref was motioning for the play was dead. Did they give you any kind of explanation for that?
No, they didn't. They didn't.
I know.
Did they call the play dead?
The guy right behind the play was motioning the play. I don't know if he whistled, but he was motioning for it.
So he did call the play dead.
Mm-hmm. You waved it. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to look at that on film, and maybe some others will too.
Yeah, but on that onside kick, when they went for the review and then called the penalty after looking at the review, has that ever happened to you before? What was your kind of assessment on that?
On what now?
The onside kick where they went back to review it, and then they reviewed it, and it was a successful one, but then they called a penalty on your guys. Has that ever happened to you in the past?
Don't even get me started. I mean, I'll have to decide whether I want to spend some money before I get into that very much. But I think that you need to look carefully at it and make your own judgment.
You get the big pick right at the beginning of the second half, and you get down there close. And I know you don't like to kick there, and I know the touchdown probably puts the game away. But kind of take us through your thought process there, going forward rather than kicking the field goal.
I thought we could get it. Still believe we would have got it, except we just rolled the snap back. How the hell you roll a snap back? You know, I mean, we've had. Let's see how many plays we had. We had 83 plays, and of those we had 82 good snaps. I don't know why the hell we wouldn't have a good snap on that one, you know.
You've obviously been doing this for a while, and I'm sure there have been a bunch of tough losses along the way like this one. What do you kind of tell your guys in the locker room after that to kind of boost morale?
I always try to be really honest with them, and I'm not necessarily 100%. It depends. I mean, sometimes you try to boost morale. Sometimes morale doesn't need to be boosted. You need to boost something, but it's not always morale that needs to be boosted. And between now and tomorrow, I'm going to figure out what it is that needs to be boosted, and whether I'm right or not, we're going to boost something.
All right, Shane, let's move it along here. Ole Miss defeats Tulane 61-21, and this is after Ole Miss pulled basically everybody in the ball game in the third quarter, and there was a rain delay. There was going to be a monsoon weather, I was told, and it did not affect Matt Corral and this offense one bit. And I know people are saying, well, hell, it's Tulane. Remember, Tulane almost beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma week 1 of the season. And my God, Shane, I mean, if you are not watching this Ole Miss offense, I don't know what you're doing with your life, because they had the first 10 possessions, Shane, 9 touchdowns. I mean, they are just a machine right now. They are playing probably the best football on the offensive side in the country.
I told you, man. I tweeted out they're playing with their food. That's what Ole Miss was doing with Tulane at times. And Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, just a quick little gambling story. I'm chasing the dragon. You knew this. Okay, so I get my 100 from Texas A&M, which we'll talk about in a minute. Go Aggies. Then Mississippi State screws everything up with my double lockdown, so now I'm back to even. So then my brother texts us, and he says, dude, check out the weather. I'm looking, man, it is a freaking monsoon. And I'm also looking at that point, so I'm like, there's no way that they're going to score over 76 points in this game. Give me the under. So about 8 minutes into this game, I realized I made a huge mistake. So I put another 100 on the over, man. I'm there at midnight watching this game. So, yes, it was exciting, electric. And this team, if you've not got to see them, man, it is like if you're playing a video game. That's the only thing I can compare it to. Like you're playing a video game and you're just like, hey, let's grip and rip and play this thing. That's the style that Ole Miss is going with, and it is exciting and fun to watch.
Matt Corral, 7 touchdowns, school record, 41 first downs for the Rebels in this game. And again, they pulled Matt Corral for the entire fourth quarter because there was no need to have him out there. And for the most part, the defense shut him out in the second half. So, again, it's not just the starters for Ole Miss defense that's pretty solid. It's they've got some depth now there in Oxford on that side of the ball. Now, my only question, and this is kind of nitpicking here, Shane, do you know who Ole Miss plays next?
No, it's not Southern Miss. That's going to Alabama, right?
Right.
Okay. No, I have no idea.
Ole Miss plays Alabama. So they got next week off. So they'll have 2 weeks to prepare, which normally you look at the schedule and say, well, hell, that's great. I would honestly say that's probably not the best thing here for the Rebels. They're so red hot right now. I think you want to keep playing. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, maybe a little bit, but this team is not really struggled much. Now, they've not had an opponent like Alabama either. So part of me is saying, hey, maybe this isn't a bad thing. They can sit back and they can really study that Florida film. They can get out there and they can watch that Southern Miss game and get. I'm sure Lane Kiffin. So I don't know if it's a huge. It's all about practice and preparation, man. As long as I would say that Lane's going to do everything to prepare like they were going to a game this week, just so they don't lose that momentum. It'd be crazy to give these boys too much time off.
Kind of worry about what we didn't do right and that stuff, and obviously there's always stuff to fix, but. You're probably going to struggle to believe what I said all week. Okay, that's a good team that we played. All you got to do is watch the Oklahoma film, and I bet they go play really well the rest of the year. So, for our guys to handle some adversity about, starting warm-ups and stopping and lightning and all that, and then to come out and play, so well in the first half. I think 6 touchdowns and really 7 drives besides the last one running out of time. it's pretty cool, and really proud of our defense. To go 1 of 11 on third downs, and they got good players, and they're really well schematically coached on offense. I was worried about that because they give you a lot of conflict plays. So really happy with what our defense played, and you're going to win a ton of games. You run 94 plays and 707 yards of offense versus 56 and 305. And I think somebody said school record of 41 first downs. I'm not sure. I've been around first downs in the 40s, and I think 25 in the first half. So I'm not throwing those out just because those are stats. Those are really deserved stats. When you have that many first downs, you're playing really well with a lot of people for an extended amount of time. It ain't just you're hitting big plays. So proud of the guys how they did that. Wish we didn't have a bye, but because we're playing so well, but it is what it is. We'll look to get better during that. Get Springer back on defense and, get ready for some really good teams.
Hey, Lane, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about your opinion of Matt Corral's performance tonight. I mean, he was lights out.
Well, I've kind of been pretty positive, as you know, about him, but also, trying to keep him from all the rat poison. And, kind of expected he would play like this just because he's off the charts talented, like I've said before, top 10 pick. But now he's the work ethic that he's putting in the preparation. And, we had a moment last week, I think I said in one of the interviews, where, in the game we were up by a bunch. He came over, he was mad, we were audible in a play, and the receiver didn't get it, and he got mad at us. And I was like, that's pretty cool when you take that step. You're that into the game, up 30, 40 points, and you're going to get on the head coach, about audibling. That you're at an elite level at that point. And then he shows it. I didn't even realize it was 4, but 7 total touchdowns, 4 on the ground. And those things aren't designed. We're not trying to run the guy this much. When they close, he pulls it. So ideally, we would not like him running, getting hit that much. Probably left him in one series too long. But it was just still so much time left in the game.
All right, Shane, next on the docket here, SEC showdown that never really much of a contest, though. Georgia beat South Carolina 40-13. Mm-hmm. And my God, Shane, aside from the drive where Stetson Bennett came in and immediately threw an interception, the Bulldogs were unstoppable in this game. They continue to put that their foot down on that throttle. JT Daniels back on the field. He looked outstanding. The deep ball was there whenever the Bulldogs wanted it. They were able to run all over them. They just, South Carolina was already having issues on the offensive line. They just, went through them like damn Swiss cheese here, like they weren't even there. Yeah. Just complete domination for the Georgia Bulldogs, and it's very concerning. I think that South Carolina, couldn't guard these guys. Of course, again, this is arguably the number 1 team in the nation here, but at least South Carolina continued to fight. Zeb Nolan started the game, got hurt, got stepped on, and then here comes Luke Doty, who came into the game. And, I've seen a lot of South Carolina fans wondering, why in the hell is Luke Doty not starting if, he's able to go? It is kind of questionable, but I think that Shane Beamer had to look at this game and say, look at these monsters on the defensive side of the ball. Is this really the time to work in Luke Doty when I know Zeb Nolan's not exactly been lighting the world on fire, but he's been managing the offense. He's been making some big throws. I just don't know if you throw Luke Doty out there if you don't have to, and of course they had to, and he responded. He played well, but that's kind of my only logic for that. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, Mike, it feels like Beamer knew he wasn't going to win this thing. And why rattle Luke's confidence when you can bring him in the next week? So that's, I think in my mind, that's kind of what happened. Don't rush him. He's hurt, So I will say this, though, Mike. For starters, we all know that Georgia probably has the best defense in the country. And there were plenty of times that South Carolina capitalized on some mistakes that Georgia made. And kudos to that defense from keeping them out. I mean, they did finally let go, and they scored a touchdown against the Bulldogs. But I'm telling you right now, man, there was some times that these guys had opportunities to put some points on the board, and they kept walking away with field goals. So South Carolina, to make this a ball game, had to play flawless. And unfortunately, when they got in those critical areas, they weren't able to capitalize, man.
Yeah, and any hope South Carolina had in this, it was dead right before halftime. They stopped the Bulldogs, and then for some damn reason, from their own end zone, they called a play action, slow developing play. Luke Doty got sacked for a safety. Big Jordan Davis was in on that. And then they had to punt the ball away, and Georgia got a field goal. So I know it's only 5 points, but that was just a swift kick in the nuts right before halftime. So let's kick it over to Kirby, who talks about that moment. And I think perhaps more importantly, the fact that we're looking across the country and we're seeing the nation's elite struggling, yet Georgia just continues to play at an incredibly high level. He touches on that.
Coach, you mentioned it for a minute, that just the end of the first half seemed really critical for things, getting a safety out of that and then coming back down and getting the field goal. Can you just talk about taking advantage of those last 24 seconds?
Yeah, situational football is critical, and we rep those exact situations every Thursday. And man, I was really proud of the execution. Number one, they stopped us, which can't happen. We can't not have an opportunity. And he took the time out, which told me that he was going to try to use the clock and not let it run out. Amir Speed and Jake Camarda started that whole thing with down in the ball inside the one, which is just elite. We practiced that really hard all camp. So Amir made a huge play. Jake made a huge play. And then the defense made a huge play. Then the special teams made a big play. And then we were able to save our timeouts. And it was really big to get those pass plays to set up the field goal. I just thought that was a really good sequence to steal 5 points.
Obviously, Stetson came in on the third possession. Was that just a deal going in where you planned to play both guys?
Yeah, to be honest with you, JT was not 100% all week, and he practiced all week, but he didn't necessarily go with the ones the whole time. We didn't know if he was going to be able to go on Monday, and we thought Stetson really practiced well, and he and JT rolled all week, and we told him, I guess it was Thursday or Friday, and we called him in and said, hey, look, you're both going to play, and we think JT's healthy enough to go, but we're going to play you, Stetson. And it's an unfortunate deal. Brock's route was a little shallow, and he probably shouldn't have thrown it there, and he threw it a little high, sailed on him, and got it picked. So it's unfortunate for Stetson, but he did have a good week of practice. And I've said it all along, and I continue to say it and stand by it. I have a lot of confidence in our quarterbacks, a lot of confidence in our quarterbacks. I can't say that I've ever had as much confidence in 3 to 4 guys that I've ever had. So Stetson earned that right, and it just didn't work out.
Kirby, I know you're focused on your team, but as everybody tries to figure out kind of the pecking order in college football, you might know that like Clemson struggled to beat Georgia Tech today, and Alabama had a hard time in Florida. I was just wondering what that tells you kind of about, maybe the state of college football this year, and maybe how it affects you guys.
Yeah, I hadn't seen many scores. I was asking on the way over here, who won the Penn State Auburn game. I didn't know. And, it's weird to me. It's a weird year because not necessarily the Clemson score or the Alabama because, playing at Florida is a tough place to play. But it's just different. It's a different feel to it because there's so many teams that I know are talented. And I'm not talking about those teams, but they lose to somebody that's like, man, they have no business losing to them. Or upsets seem to be more prevalent, and we're not immune to that. So we're trying to heighten our awareness to this standard. Like, hey, can we play to this standard all the time, or are we going to go out there and be flat and not play to our standard? And it's hard when you're dealing with 18, 19, 21 years old because they get told all these things, and they start reading and believing it. And I'm warning our guys all night, hey, look, you played well tonight, but let's be honest. We're on this, trajectory, and we're trying to climb this thing, and on this flight, we're trying to take off. We're like wheels up. We're getting there. We're not at the highest altitude yet. And so what can we do to avoid that? But I see it every week in college football, and we try to bring it to our guys' attention.
All right, Shane, and then on the other side of the ball, of course, no one was picking South Carolina to win this thing. My God, the spread was 32 points here. But, I did like the fight I saw from South Carolina. And, now that we've seen Kentucky struggle, we'll get to them in a moment. I think, I'm not sitting here predicting the big upset next week in Columbia, but I at least think that South Carolina is going to give Kentucky everything they got. And if Kentucky plays like they did this week, they may lose to South Carolina, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, South Carolina, say what you want, man. They were scrappy. And like I said, during that game, they put points on the board. They moved the ball against the Georgia Bulldogs. They just couldn't get it in the end zone at times. They're not going to have that problem facing some of these other teams in the SEC. Georgia's they're just an amazing defense. But I think we learned something from South Carolina here. I think they're a little better than people put on. It's easy to look at the East Carolina and say, oh, well, hell, they barely beat this. Well, look what they did. They went to Athens and yeah, they got beat, but they were able to they got their boys in opportunities, and they just weren't able to capitalize. And I'm going to tell you, Mike, Coach Beamer, he's going to have to work on his losing face, because that quickly became a meme all over the internet.
Shane, obviously they've got a really good defensive line over there. Just what were they doing to maybe make things physical on the offensive side and maybe being able to get a push?
Who was doing?
Georgia's defensive line. What were they doing to maybe make things difficult on the offense?
They've got like 100 5-star football players on their defense. They have a defensive lineman that weighs 340 pounds and runs better than everybody on this call. They've got 5-star defensive backs. They're big and physical and fast. I mean, other than that, they're really freaking good. That's why they have the top defense in the country. They're hard to run the football on. So there wasn't some magical scheme they came out with tonight. They got 5-star recruits everywhere, and they play really physical. Damn.
Yeah, Shane, how much of your game plan did you have to tweak once Luke got into the game? And how do you feel like he performed when he was out there?
I thought he did great. Obviously, if you script how the game's going to start, you not losing Sherrod Green and losing the guy that started the game at quarterback early in the game is not ideal. Brad Johnson had, I don't know if it was food poisoning or what, but he was sick all day. So he, wasn't 100% from that standpoint. And those other guys stepped up, Mokava and Staley. Thought those guys did great. We didn't really have to change much of the plan. I mean, going into it, we started Zeb because, Luke practiced all week, but really Thursday was the first day that he got in there and did true, like full 11 on 11. Before that, it was individual drills. It was 7 on 7. It was some limited stuff. Thursday, he was pretty much full go, and we just didn't, Zeb had played pretty well the last 2 weeks, so we started Zeb. But, we had no reservations about putting Luke in the game. And, he probably would have played a little bit anyway if Zeb hadn't gotten hurt. I don't know. But we didn't really have to change much. Maybe a little bit more willing to call some, quarterback runs or quarterback read options, things like that with Luke in there. But we didn't really have to, wholesale change our plan. I really thought we had a good plan going into the game. And I thought we did a decent job executing. We've obviously got to be a whole lot better in the red zone. And when you get down there against a team like Georgia, you can't, kick field goals. And, if we go down there and we're able to score touchdowns there, who knows what happens.
Shane, what did you think of the way the guys competed towards the end? A lot of energy, obviously, from you and your coaching staff, and just being able to fight despite what the scoreboard was indicating.
Yeah, we talk all the time about, competing and never looking at the scoreboard, whether we're, beating Eastern Illinois, whatever we were in the fourth quarter or whatever it was tonight, just, competing. And we always talk about, dominating the fourth quarter. And we don't look at the scoreboard and say, okay, well, we're losing. We're not going to try and dominate the fourth quarter tonight. All along, we wanted to get this game to the fourth quarter and go out there and make plays. And I was really proud of, the way that we competed, especially in the fourth quarter. I thought we got more physical. as the game went on, and some of the, plays, the physicality, the covering the kickoff and the physicality on that kickoff cover at the end of the game. Some of the runs we had, the physicality, finishing runs defensively, Damani Staley, big hit over on the sideline. I mean, I was proud of them. Obviously, there's no moral victories. We're not patting ourselves on the back like we're because we lost by 27 points, but I did see that mentality really come together, which was good to see.
Speaking of Kentucky, Shane, let's get to that one because we almost had to have our first emergency podcast of the young season. Kentucky really struggled here with UTC. Wins the game 28-23, but a large part of that 95-yard pick six interception late in the game. UTC had the ball, and if not for that interception, hell, who knows? Chattanooga may have won this damn game. And again, I'm not sitting here saying that 9 times out of 10, UTC would ever stand a chance of beating Kentucky, but this is troubling to me, Shane, because it's one of two things, or maybe it's both. But Kentucky is reading their press clippings; they're feeling themselves a little bit here, and they could not run the ball against UT Chattanooga, which is that's the bread and butter of the program. I don't care if you got everybody's talking up Will Levis and Wan'Dale Robinson. That's got nothing to do with the running game. Not being able to run on this team was a huge red flag to me. And I think more concerning, Kentucky, they are very eager to take a step up to an SEC East contender. The fans are always talking about it. The coaches are always talking about it. The players are talking about it. This shit right here, you don't see Georgia or Florida or even the West Powers struggling against UTC. And I think this just goes to show, there's still a long way to go for Kentucky before they take that next step. Or maybe I'm reading too much into one game. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I thought last week was going to be the eye opener. I think there's a lot of things that went wrong in this game, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It felt like both offense, defensive line were just straight garbage, especially that running game. There was no reason that Levis should even have to get in any type of shootout because, Rodriguez, they should have been able to just turn around and hand him the ball 4 or 5 times and just keep moving the chains. It blew my mind that they were having problems doing that. And some of the things that really stood out to me, though, and one of the commentators made mention of this is where's the leadership? Games like these against FCS opponents, and you're struggling. You got to. Your coaches can yell till they're blue in the face, but sometimes you need a player, man. You need a leader on your team to look you in the eyes and say, "Come on, man, get your shit together." And that's what it felt like this team was lacking, and they just didn't have that spark or that want to. And then Will's out there slinging it like every damn pass is a must get. I think. They're going to have to do some recalibration this week, Mike.
Also, well, a week ago, what wasn't working there today? It felt like maybe the offensive line was never able to get that push. You weren't getting those hard runs.
Yeah, you saw it as well as we did. At times, we were moving it okay, running the ball, and then we weren't handling some movement, and they were getting some penetration and creating some negative yardage plays, getting us behind the chains, and then all of a sudden you don't convert a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, or 3rd down, and you're punting. And it was just one of those aggravating days that way.
It seemed like you kind of ebbed and flowed.
It did. It was he'll be better. He'll be better. He missed. We felt like he missed some shots in the first half, and settled in. Did some good things at times, but I think he's pressing a little bit, trying to do too much, and he's just got to take care of himself and be him and be confident, and he'll be all right.
Mark, you've been a long time. You think with as much work as these guys have to put in the off season, all the training, that they would be up every single time because it's only 12 opportunities, but yet every year you see one game for every team.
Exactly what I said from Monday on. I agree, and that's my job And I told the team that, I gotta do a better job. And, plain and simple, no, it's nobody but me.
All right, Shane, let's kick it on down here to Arkansas. They took care of business, just shellacked Georgia Southern 45-10. And imagine 2-3 years ago, me telling you Arkansas's beaten FBS teams by 35 points. But here it's pretty ho-hum. Like no one's even lifted a finger here because we're a ranked team. This is the expectation. But all the concern out there, not at Arkansas necessarily, but around the country in the SEC. KJ Jefferson, can he throw the ball well enough? Well, my man came through on this one, 366 yards. This is a game where you get these, I don't want to say issues, but you just, you get your confidence going into SEC play. The Razorbacks really took care of business. Yeah. This was a dangerous opponent. Hell, we just talked about Kentucky and the letdown factor. That was potentially very real with a Georgia Southern team coming in here with their triple option attack, and they stood no chance against the Razorbacks. So, hey, just the continued progression here of the Sam Pittman program, and now it looks like, the biggest showdown in the SEC. They've got Texas next weekend. Thoughts on Arkansas just taking care of business here?
All right, I'm telling you, man, you talk about a bet. I thought for sure there'd be a little bit of a letdown because that's just what happens, Mike. I mean, look at Kentucky struggling against an FCS opponent. Why wouldn't you? Coming off this big victory of Texas, of course you're going to have a little bit of a letdown. But this is exactly what good programs do, Mike. They go in there, they get the work done, they get the hell out of there. And it's more of a rest game than it is. It's just a filler. And I mean, you look at teams like, I hate to keep going back, but Kentucky fought tooth and nail to the very last whistle, man. There's some players hurt. There's some people sore. Arkansas is not dealing with that because they went in there with their hard hats, they got the job done, and they got the hell out of there. That's exactly the way that you're supposed to do when you have these type of opponents coming to your stadium.
Yeah, and Arkansas defense, Shane, held Georgia Southern to 6 3-and-outs. That's incredible. And on damn near
confidence building, man.
And about half their drives, they scored a touchdown on the offensive side. So, and several of these were 1-play, 3-play, 4-play. I mean, this is what you need going into the Texas A&M game.
Coach, what did you think about the play of the offense and specifically KJ, 13 of 23 for 366 and 3 touchdowns?
Every time he misses a throw, it's like, oh my gosh, in my mind. But then when he throws one, we go 91. He throws a nice drop pass to Warren Thompson and it's 60 for a touchdown. I'm like, well, that's what he's supposed to do. I think Dan Marino missed a pass or two. So my mind's got to work a little bit different. He's our quarterback. He's doing a really nice job. He missed a couple of open ones. That's going to happen. But he's a competitor. He's a competitor. And I was really proud of him. He still has that option to run. And he's got some pretty good wideouts there to throw the ball to.
Two-parter again. You mentioned, I think it was after the game last week, that Traylon, was the happiest guy in the locker room, or as happy as anybody, even though he didn't get a bunch of catches. What does that say about him? Because a lot of star players aren't like that.
Says it about our team. Our team wants to win, and he's certainly a good player, but he's not selfish, nor is anybody else in that locker room, including coaches. And we got a team now, and I'm proud that he does that, but that's what kind of kid he is. If he did something different, I would be shocked, him or anybody else in there. We got a team, and we don't have to have the best players. We just have to have the best team. Our kids have bought into that.
And speaking of those Aggies, Shane, another team that took care of business, and Jimbo still was not as pleased. The Aggies take care of business, 34-0 over New Mexico. And this defense, Shane, my God, I mean, Georgia may have the nation's best defense. Texas A&M might be number 2. I mean, they are playing some suffocating football right now. And, all of a sudden, Zach Calzada looked a little shaky against Colorado here. First touchdown of the game, 70-yard touchdown. They're hitting some big ones. Demas, the redshirt freshman, that was his first catch, a 70-yard touchdown, not bad. It really seemed like some of these young receivers for the Aggies. Moose Mohammed, another freshman, he had one hell of a catch in this ball game. It certainly seems like Zach Calzada looks a lot more comfortable back there, doesn't it?
Yeah, he does. And for starters, man, what about my man Terry Wilson? Leaving the SEC, could you imagine going down there? You guarantee he didn't look at the schedule, and he's like, shit, we got to play A&M. I felt bad for him, man. He was getting destroyed. But Mike, I don't want to say this is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Thank you, A&M. I appreciate the hundo. My lock of the week, going 3-0 at the time. I was on cloud 9, Mike. But I'm going to tell you, they should have won by more, and they didn't because of that offensive line. There were some times, I know Calzada is looking good at times, but there were some times he was running for his damn life from the Lobos, and that cannot happen if you're going to play. I mean, you think Arkansas ain't going to have some pressure on you, and you're having problems with the Lobos? So that's something they're going to – this is 2 weeks in a row, Mike, that they're not able to run at will or keep – keep the Calzada's jersey clean. There's no reason that should be the case. So, even though they did get a big victory here, I still think these guys need to look in the mirror because they got a long SEC schedule ahead if they cannot keep the quarterback clean.
Yeah, and that's something Jimbo Fisher talked about after the game. He says his damn team's playing average after 34-0 win, and it sounds like you and he are on the same page there. But it's interesting you talk about the offensive line. I do agree with you. I think that'll be a weakness. I think one strength, one guy we've not hit on here, Anaya Smith, he had 2 returns, one called back, but that was a questionable call on it in itself, but nearly 2 scores on returns, and Arkansas special teams has been a weakness for several years, so that's going to be one to watch next week. Yeah, I think Arkansas has got to do everything in their power to keep it away from Smith because he is just on another level this season.
He's not human, man. He is not human. I mean, when you have to slow down an instant replay to see if the man even touched the ground as he's rolling around. I mean, it's unreal the athleticism he has.
When you say you need to learn to grow up and play more physical, is that something you can achieve in a week's time?
We'll find out. We better.
Right.
Because that team we're playing is very physical. That team we're about to play and the rest of them down the line in this league has big boy ball. So you better grow up. And it's not just always there. I mean, across the board. Talking about how you run routes, how you do things, block, run routes, catches, throws. Even if we on defense, do we want to take things on consistently? That we keep doing everything. We got to make sure we're a physical, tough football team if we're going to make it in this league.
In what ways did you see Zach grow from when he was thrust into action last week to when he had a week to know he was starting?
Well, I think his early throws in the game, he made good decisions early and was relaxed. And then sometimes when you play really good and that goes off real good, you keep thinking everything's a home run. Just hit the baseball. Just hit it hard or make the right decisions, what I keep saying. It ain't about throwing touchdowns. It's about throwing to the right guy, making decisions, making checks, managing. The game is bigger than anybody that's ever played it or coached it. It will bite you right in the tail when you think you're going to just go out there and do this and that. And that's one of the things he's got to continue. He has ability, but you got to continue to make the right decisions on every play.
To beat a team 34-0 and then come off the field and tell the sideline reporter we're very average right now, is that a commentary on the expectations you have and where y'all are trying to go?
That's the truth. We're playing very average. I mean, we're much more capable of what we can do. But listen, potential is the worst thing you can have. Because that means you ain't done it. I hate the word potential. When somebody says you got a potential to have a good team, that drives me nuts. That means I'm not coaching right and they're not playing right. We got to get better in all those aspects, and we got to grow up across the board in everything we do and play with much more consistency as a team and learn to bend and play off each other.
Can you talk about this team getting ready for conference play and just what do you feel like they got to do? Because
what I just said, and we got to get better across the board fundamentally, mentally, and psychologically to understand what's about in front of you and to embrace it and to attack it and not just go through it. You want to play real teams, man. This SEC West, it don't get no better. It's as good a ball as there is. And you better strap it on, and you better and you better like it, and you better be ready for it in all phases. Skill guys, quarterbacks, linemen, tight ends, backs, defensive linemen, linebackers, kicking. Everything. And we need to get fundamentally better and get a nastier, meaner, tougher, more competitive attitude.
Yeah. All right, Shane, real quick, LSU took care of business just what we counted them out here against Central Michigan, 49-21. They jumped all over Jim McElwain and his shark-loving ass. Max Johnson, man, this is the Max Johnson we thought we were getting. 5 touchdowns, 372 yards. And I thought, the biggest positive, I know it's Central Michigan, but hell, we saw they played Missouri tough at Missouri. All these young receivers, Deion Smith, Jack Beth, Devonta Lee. I mean, all these guys. Malik Neighbors was making his first appearance. And this was the guys that we've been hearing up all camp. They're starting to show up at the perfect time, going to hear in the SEC play. And I think LSU may have got themselves a running back here in freshman Corey Kiner, Shane. I mean, he was hitting that spin button. He was making guys look foolish out there. So this is, hopefully this isn't a mirage. We may just pick against LSU once again to get their ass kicked in the right direction again. But this is the LSU we thought we were getting, isn't it?
Dude, I was sitting there. I was like, note to self, purple jerseys, go with the points. So LSU came out. And I will say, Mike, again, this is very eerily similar to last year. Very slow start, sluggish, really ugly at times. But keep an eye on this program, Mike. This is one that it's kind of like that ball rolling down the hill. Once it gets going, they may be tough to stop. So I am really intrigued. Who do they got next week?
At Mississippi State.
Ooh, man, this is a little revenge game. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I want to bet that one. We'll get to that, but that's going to be a hell of a game. But just like I said, there's just something. There's the vibe. These guys, I could feel it in the fan base, Mike. They're like, okay, baby, here we go. Let's do this. So LSU may be picking up steam, man.
All right, next, Shane, Stanford goes to Nashville, beats Vanderbilt 41-23, and man, the Vanderbilt Commodores came out tough. They were fighting. Hell, they stuffed Stanford on a goal line on 3rd and goal and 4th and goal. Had the game tied up 14-14, nearing halftime. And then some key mistakes really cracked the door wide open for Stanford. They ended up scoring 17 points in a 5-minute span to kind of blow this thing wide open. Vanderbilt scored at the very, very end to make this a little bit, the score a little deceiving here because Stanford just controlled the action. But if I'm a Vanderbilt fan, I like the fight here. I mean, this is who you're trying to be. You're trying to be the SEC version of Stanford. And, no one is going to take Vanderbilt's roster over Stanford's. But the fact that Vanderbilt was hanging in there tough and out Stanford early in the game, if nothing else, that's a little bit of silver lining.
Yeah, and like you said, don't let that box score deceive you. This was a close, tough fought game. I predicted them to have the upset, and there was at times I was thinking we were going to get it, Mike. But the fact of the matter is Vanderbilt has yet to put together a perfect game, and that's exactly what they're going to need to beat a team like Stanford. And unfortunately, just came up a little short, and like you said, that little flurry of points, they couldn't get back into it. So I think as a Vanderbilt, if you are a Vanderbilt fan, I think you're sitting there and saying, hey man, you're seeing the positives, and they're starting to outweigh the negatives that were there week 1.
And then the other 2 games, not really anything to take away from here. Tennessee beats Tennessee Tech 56-0. At least Hendon Hooker scored a couple of touchdowns. The defense finally got some turnovers, so that's what you're looking for if you're a Vol. And then Missouri just whacked Semu 59-28. And old Semu scored a couple late to make this thing look competitive. But, these were get-right games for those 2 programs so they can go back into some tough games here. But any thoughts on those 2 real quick?
No, obviously it was good to see Tennessee win, baby. I just wish we played Tennessee Tech every week. But I think you're right. These were just a couple of get right games, and still wasn't pretty. I know that scoreboard on Tennessee looked good, but there was still some things that those boys got to work out. And I am kind of interested how that. It ramps up real quick this week, Mike.
Yes, sir. Well, speaking of that, the Week 4 opening lines are up, Shane. And I'm going to have you guess a couple of these, but
okay.
I'm going to throw these first ones at you. Southern Miss at Alabama. Alabama, how about this, Shane? 46-point favorite. Oh, my goodness.
Come on now. Brett Favre's rolling.
Georgia State at Auburn. Auburn, a 23-point favorite. Hey-oh. And then Missouri at Boston College. I didn't ask you this because who the hell knows about Boston College, but they're actually favored by 1 point over Missouri at the opening. But we do have a number of SEC matchups, Shane. Georgia at Vanderbilt. What do you think the opening line for that should be?
Oh, man, I'm going to go Georgia. Ooh. Oh, man, Georgia 38.
I said 40 because I was thinking, hey, they were 32 over South Carolina, but it's actually Georgia minus 31 here at Vanderbilt. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Kentucky at South Carolina. What do you think for that?
Give me Kentucky at South Carolina minus 11.
Man, hey, you and I were thinking alike. I said Kentucky minus 13, but no respect for Kentucky after UTC struggles. Kentucky only favored by 5.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh. All right, how about this one, Shane? Near and dear to your heart, Tennessee at Florida. What do you got for that one?
Well, clearly a trap game, Mike. I'm going to go Florida. I'm going to go Florida. I'll go Florida minus 26.
I said Florida 17, and it is 22. All right, real quick here, Shane. LSU at Mississippi State. What do you got for that?
LSU at Mississippi State. Oh, give me LSU minus 3.
Oh, it's LSU minus 4. You almost nailed it. And then last but not least, Arkansas, Texas A&M. What you got? Camera's dying.
A&M minus 13.
Oh, it's A&M minus 5. So how about that one, Shane? We got us a bowl game in Arlington. Cannot wait. We'll be breaking that game down all week. But, man, we went long on this episode, so I really appreciate you hanging in there. And, man, just another fantastic weekend of SEC football. I'm ready to do it again. How about you, buddy?
Hell yeah. 3-0 my locks, baby. Go on now. Making money over here. Forget that Mississippi State. We know we got screwed on that one. But moving forward, man, I'm looking forward to it. But, yeah, man, appreciate all the news. Fantastic weekend. I think this week's going to be even more exciting.
Well, hang in there, guys. We're going to have several more great shows this week. And, hey, starting the week strong, and I hope your team won. And if not, the refs screwed you.
Yeah, that's right. They did. Those blind-ass refs.
All right, guys. So I appreciate you, Shane. I appreciate each and every one of you. Catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.